I am sure sports. You know me there. I'm coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get your sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me not know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crapper players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to I Am Sure Sports. Again, I am management, and first and foremost, I owe you a big apology. Our show just ran over time, right? Clarifying some issue where Jamaica's football is concerned. And our guest has faithfully waited, and we're going to have a riveting conversation about Caribbean football, but specifically about the small island of Grenada that I recently visited and found the people to be, just fantastic and welcoming. Small Caribbean island, close to 110,000 people in terms of population size, but you wouldn't know. They have a big heart, big desires, big dream, and you see teamwork and friendship. I'm telling you. And so I am very, very delighted today that I have the privilege of speaking with Mr. Marlon Glean, a former national player with Grenada. Also, it is a home of Anthony Modest, who plied his trade at Portmore captain out there as well. Andre Fletcher, the Spice Man, you understand me? He's from out of there. Kirani James. So they have produced a lot of good talent as well. I think Raul Lewis and Devon Thomas, I believe. So they have Shotgun. Is it Devon Simmons? Shotgun Simmons, I think his name is. But it's not about them today. It's not about cricket. It's about the sport. Yeah, I understand that they don't like small island. Okay, the big. The small island with a big heart, I think that's a good thing. So as you come on, please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and to share. I don't want to hold our guest anymore, so let me invite Mr. Marlon Glean to virtual Jamaica. Mr. Glean, Marlon, welcome to I Am Sure Sports. Welcome to the virtual space of Jamaica.
Hey, Omar, thank you very much for having me. And good afternoon to yourself and all your listeners, viewers, from wherever they may be across the world. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Listen, for those who don't know you, I want you to begin by, just telling them a little bit about you in terms of, your involvement in football to the point where you're at right now, so the public can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Grenada, and I've always played football. So I played for, at U15 national team, U17, 20, and eventually senior national team. But also, I got a football scholarship a long time ago to St. Francis College in New York, where I played for one season there. Thereafter, I was recruited by Southern New Hampshire University. Back then, they were called New Hampshire College. Um, One of your reggae boys, Dean Sewell, would have been on that team at the time. Um, you know, and Freddie Butler would have played there also. So I would have met those guys and spent a summer with them. But I got a better offer in South Carolina, so I moved on to University of South Carolina, where I completed my studies. I have a first degree in finance from the University of South Carolina at Aiken. Thereafter, I was still playing for the national team at the time, so I would go between college and Grenada national team. I played against Jamaica in the Caribbean Cup finals in 1999 in Trinidad. So that was when you guys just came back from the World Cup. We played against you we were in the same group of the Caribbean Cup finals in Trinidad. Um, Thereafter, I went back to New York, and I worked at UBS for some time, and I was there for a couple of years. Then I spent 1 year coaching college soccer at Oneonta State University, upstate New York. And then I moved over to the UK for law school. So I did my degree at the University of Leicester, and then I did the bar at Nottingham Law School. So I'm a barrister at law from a UK perspective. I can practice in the UK. Upon completing law school in the UK, then I moved down to Grenada and started practicing in Grenada. 1 year later, I was the vice president of the Grenada Football Association. I was in Grenada for about 6 years and then moved back to the US. I worked at General Electric for some time in the contracts department, negotiating contracts with the federal government. And thereafter, I was hired by FIFA to set up and manage the Caribbean office, which was based in Barbados. So there, I was responsible for development of football in 22 countries, including Jamaica. So I've done a lot.
The 22 countries, sorry, are all the MAs in the Caribbean.
All the MAs not all the MAs in the Caribbean, because there are 31 Caribbean MAs. But out of the 31 Caribbean MAs, which are CONCACAF has 31 Caribbean MAs, but FIFA has 25 of those. 6 of them are not FIFA members, but they're CONCACAF members, like Guadeloupe, Martinique, Bonaire, French Guiana. These countries are CONCACAF, but they're not FIFA. So
so they cannot qualify for World Cups then?
Exactly, they cannot qualify for the World. They can play in World Cup, they can play in Nations League, but they cannot participate in World Cup qualifying or play at the World Cup. So there's Guadeloupe, Martinique, Bonaire, French Guiana.
Aruba?
No, the two St. Martins.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I did a bunch of development stuff in Jamaica, including your new artificial turf. I was responsible for that project. The lights at the technical center, and even the accommodation building at the technical center. So I did a bunch of stuff there over the last 5 years. I was at FIFA for 5 years and returned to Grenada in 2022, and became president of the Football Association in June 2022. So I've been in office just over a year now as president of the Grenada Football Association.
Awesome. And how would you, just over a year, how would you assess the progress so far? How would you assess your performance in the role so far?
It's a challenging role because I think for a lot of years we've done the same thing the same way and we've not gotten any results. So when I was campaigning, I said the focus has to be on grassroots and youth development. We cannot just continue to focus on presenting a national team, whether it's under 15, under 17, under 20, or senior national team. At Caribbean, at CFU, at CONCACAF, and at World Cup qualifying. Play 3 games, we get knocked out, and we start again the following year or 2 years later. So we had to focus on grassroots. I'm not sure if you remember football in Grenada over the years. The first Caribbean Cup in 1989, Grenada was at the finals against Dwight York, Trinidad and Tobago. That was the strike squad at the time that just missed out on World Cup qualifying. Grenada was in that finals and lost 2-1 to Trinidad in the finals in Barbados. Grenada was ranked as high as 88 in the world in 2011. And since then, we've significantly declined to, I think we're 168 or 170 now. So
Whoa.
we've drastically been sliding down the scale of FIFA ranking. And my goal is to try to see how we can improve. And if we can improve, we have to start all over. We cannot just put kids on a field and expect results. So we have to go back to development. So the focus is on grassroots and youth development. We recently launched a national grassroots program, and we're actually going after 5,000 kids. Every populated area in Grenada will have a Saturday development program. We have it's going to be just over 40 centers around Grenada, including our sister islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. We'll have centers also. So the focus has to be on driving the game at the ground, making sure every kid in Grenada plays football, and hopefully we can get some. And you mentioned some diamonds we found over a period of time. The Kirani James, the Andre Fletcher, the Anderson Peters in javelin. We find some diamonds, but not too many times we find 15 and 20. You mentioned Anthony Modeste. Once upon a time, we had a team made up of Anthony Modeste, etc., that probably could have beaten anybody in the Caribbean. But today, we're literally struggling in all aspects of the competitions. So what we've been trying to do is to build back. So we now have competitions for U13, U15, U17, both boys and girls.
Oh.
In the women's department, we never had a program. So we've started a program, and we're in League C. Compared to you guys are in League A, we're in League C of CONCACAF Gold Cup qualifying, and we won our first two games. We have a third game coming up on next week Thursday against the U.S. Virgin Islands. But so far, the girls are performing well. And what we've done over the last year or so is to have competitions for these girls to participate in. So we have a girls U14 competition that's active. We have a girls U17 competition that's active. And we also have a women's league that we recently started with the support of FIFA and the FIFA Forward Funds. And the aim is to make sure that every category of kids are playing in domestic competition, and then they go into the best players that go into year-long training. So all our national teams are training year-long now, instead of 2 weeks before competition or 1 week before competition, which has been the pattern over the last 10-15 years. We now have all our national team engaged throughout the year.
Wow, that is. I mean, I'm just in amazement to hear that you have female under 14, under 16, and under 17, and a women's league going on, along with on the boys' side, you have the same thing going on.
On the boys' side, we have U15, U19, and then the senior, which is the Premier League, First Division, Second Division.
Well, and this is all through the FIFA Forward funding.
Mostly supported by FIFA Forward funding. Our U15 is the only competition we have sponsored for, so it's sponsored by Sanders, U15 boys.
Yes.
But also we've been getting small support from small companies here and there. But for us, our intention is to flood the country with football. Every kid in Grenada should be playing football.
Yeah, I have here my co-host Andre Fortune. He is from Trinidad and Tobago. So I don't know if you're going to manage a Jamaican accent in one ear and a Trinidad accent.
No, I'm used to it. I played with a lot of Jamaicans, Trinidadians, so I'm very used to those accents.
Yes. But in terms of infrastructure, I hear about on the playing side, because one of the issues that we have spoken about in Jamaica is the amount of surfaces we have, quality surfaces for this kind of grassroots development. What is it like in Grenada? I mean, I know you said you worked on the turf in Jamaica. Do you have the same sort of funds available to you to build similar facilities across Grenada, so the kids not only have good coaches but good environment to demonstrate their skills and ability or display them.
Yeah, I think we have the same challenges like almost everywhere in the Caribbean, in terms of the surfaces. As you're aware, almost all the fields in Grenada, like St. Lucia or St. Vincent or anywhere else in the Caribbean, are all owned and controlled by government. What we're trying to do right now is to build our technical center. We hope to at least break ground before the end of the year and have a technical center developed over the next, 8 to 10 months or so next year. And there we expect to have at least 4 fields with at least one artificial turf pitch. We would like to have an artificial turf pitch in every parish. In St. Lucia, over the last 3 years or so, the government of St. Lucia, not the Football Association, would have built 6 pitches, 6 artificial turf pitches around St. Lucia, which I thought was a very progressive move. And it was to deal with the lack of proper facilities around St. Lucia. So I'm hopeful that governments can see the need for the investment in infrastructure, and like the St. Lucia government, do similar investments around the various countries around the Caribbean. We want to start with doing one at our technical center, and the hope is to put a few more over a period of time. Because it's important that at that age, as you quite stated earlier, at that age, our grassroots started at U10 from 6 years old, and it goes until 14 years old. So it's from 6 to 14, and at 6 and 7 and 8, we need those kids to be playing on good surfaces. So we're actually trying to push futsal at that age also. And we hopeful that we can have a proper technical center with proper fields, so that our players from the grassroots all the way up to our Premier League can play on proper surfaces every week.
Yeah, when you say in every parish, and there are 7 parishes, right?
Well, there is 6, and then there is Carriacou, which is considered a parish, which is a small island right outside of Grenada.
Okay, that's tremendous. And you said the first one will be at the technical center. Um, that that would that be in close proximity to where your administrative offices are right now, or it's in a different location?
It's more at the north of the island, so it's at least an hour 15 minutes drive to get there.
Yeah, a lot of our development, our early stage of development in the sport in Jamaica has come through our high school football system. We, call the Manning or the Dacosta Cup. Some of the players you mentioned would have played in it, the Dean Sewell, the Freddie Butlers. That is where they harness their skills and stuff. Do you have an active high school league, or the nationwide under 15, under 17 covers that? So it eliminates the need for the high schools playing competition, or you have the high school competition along with your nationwide under 15 and under 17 competition.
Yeah, I think after Jamaica, Trinidad, we probably the third biggest high school competition in the Caribbean. And more so, when I was playing, a high school football finals in Grenada would be 4,000 people watching a high school football final, which is big for Grenada. But I think we've kind of dropped the ball over the last couple of years, and while it's still active, while it's still playing, it's not as vibrant, it's not as supported as it used to be back when I played. So I think we try to sit down with government, because it's Ministry of Sports who's pushing the high school football. Not like Jamaica, we have an entity doing high school sports. For high school sports in Grenada, it's the Ministry of Sports, and we've been trying to sit with them to kind of ensure that we can get high school football the way it used to be back then. They have the open, I think it's like on the 19th, and then there's the U15 for both boys and girls, and it's presently going on. Their matches being played almost every day right now, but I don't think there's the interest and the support like it used to once upon a time. I remember my high school playing against another high school in the town where I'm from, which is not in the capital, and there was no space to walk back then because everybody in the community came out to watch a game like that. Back then, high school football was actually bigger than the Premier League in terms of attendance. But I think we've kind of dropped the ball, and I think the quality of play also has dropped. And when I played, there was two or three high school footballers on the senior national team. Today, most of the players, I believe, are average at best, and I think government, the FA, the sponsors need to come together and sit down and see how do we revamp the football in high schools in Grenada, because it's important. As you said, it's one of those platforms where kids are used to develop. So we need to ensure that the platform is done well, so that development continues outside of the GFA and outside of the communities.
Yeah, Andre, I know you're chomping at the bits to get in, so let me invite you.
No, Mr. Glean, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Andre.
I see you got some balls in the background there.
Yeah.
You seem to be all about football. Look, you from a island with a very small population, and as the last game that I looked at you guys play was against Jamaica, and I don't think that the final score, despite the quality of the players, I think you represented yourself very well in that game. I think it's laid down in the game. The game kind of got away from you, which I thought was quite impressive. Um, you've mentioned surface, the playing surface, and some of the, as I look at football throughout the Caribbean, either through the Caribbean Cup or national team football, some of the smaller islands seems to have better quality surface at this moment than some of the bigger islands. And you've mentioned it a few times. You said you wanna get good surfaces for the kids to play on. Why is that important to the development of the football, in your opinion?
Well, from a football development standpoint, we do understand, the importance of the first touch at that age. Um, and I'm playing on a good surface back. There's enough studies to show that kids that play on a good surface would be, many times better than kids who struggle to play on good surfaces. And we need to ensure that our kids play on good surfaces consistently, not just when they show up at a tournament at CONCACAF, etc. That they get the opportunity to play on those surfaces. So it's critical, especially at the younger ages. We start our development program here at 6. It's a bit too late, but because of resources, we start at 6. And by then, these kids should be playing every week on proper surfaces to ensure that they can master the art of controlling and passing, etc. If they do it consistently over a period of time, then we know that they're going to be better players than the guessing where the pass is going to come from, etc. on a bumpy surface. If you look at our national stadium recently, it was not the best of pitches. Um, and it's unfortunate that we're battling with the stadium authority every time we have a game to make sure that the surfaces are up to speed. For whatever reason, our Caribbean stadium authorities, the people responsible for the stadiums in the region, believe it's easier and better to make quicker money doing shows and stuff at the stadiums. So what you find in Grenada, there are tons and tons of private promoters doing shows, etc., in our stadiums, putting up stage, etc., platforms, etc., on the pitches, and literally killing the grass and digging up holes in the pitches. And thereafter, trying to do a game, it takes you 2, 3, 4 months to get it back in order. And it's unfortunate. And we have that conversation with government and with the stadium authority all the time, that the stadium should be seen first and foremost as a place for sports. And
Yeah.
secondly, if by chance there is some space in the calendar, then you can add some events. But they seem to try to use it as a money making entity rather than a sporting entity. And as a result, what we find is they'll book it over a period of time. A matter of fact, let me give you an example. Grenada plays the U.S. Virgin Island women national team game on Thursday next week. We informed the stadium authority many moons ago that we had a game on that date, But they went ahead and booked a private promoter to do a show, and I'm still seeing the show being advertised at the same time when the game is supposed to be played. Mine is not at the inside of the stadium, but it's on the lawn, and it's a big show. You expect, loud sound system, etc., right outside of the actual field. So I'm not sure how is that going to work. We've spoken with government. I'm not sure what arrangement they've made, but these are the battles we have, not just in Grenada, but throughout the Caribbean. How the battles you have just to put on a national team game.
It's is that mentality, if you want to call it that, is that around the world, football in particular is an industry, and I don't think we've been able to make that the case in the Caribbean. You seem to um, understand and have a grasp of what is needed to improve the development of football. Um, how do we change that mindset? I know that. Do you think that it's because government, they just want to make money, or they don't understand the importance of when the national team play, when the kids play, when the people that represent the country, they don't understand the importance of having the best possible?
Yeah, I think it has to do with understanding first. And while they see it in their face all the time, let me give you an example. Grenada has produced a history of 400-meter athletes over the years. You see them at high school, you see them at primary school,
Mm-hmm.
you see them at high school.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, over the years, none made it out of Grenada. And then we got Kirani. So you would think that, we'll build off of that. And by now you'll see 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 400-meter athletes coming out. But we yet to see it. So I think we still continue to see football and sports in Grenada as a sport, as a recreational activity,
Right.
rather than a business.
Right.
Because if we have 10 Kiranis running across the world, that's 10 professional athletes that are coming back to help the community.
Right.
If Grenada gets a Dwight York that plays at Man United, that is someone who's coming back with millions of dollars to put back into the community. And that person is going to put back more money into that community, more than 10, 15, 20 shows you're going to do at the stadium. So why not invest in these individuals and these sporting bodies and these sporting entities now? Because it's an investment that could give you great returns in the future. We've seen it. It's not like we're guessing.
Right.
We've seen it with Anderson Peters. We've seen it with Kirani James. We've seen it with Devon Smith. We've seen it with Andre Fletcher. We've seen it. We've seen it with Junior Murray when he came out once upon a time. So it's there for everybody to see. But what we haven't been able to do is to take it seriously and actually put effort into it. Because if we do, it can change the communities where these kids come from, and it can change the country.
Yeah, I think it cannot be lost that not just would those people bring revenue back to the country, but the amount of young people that potentially would be influenced by their success. You said that you wanted to. I don't know if I'm paraphrasing here, because I didn't. You wanted to flood the streets of Grenada with football. Is that correct? When you say that, it reminded me of Iceland, and they taking um, a similar step. Do you already have a plan for that, or is this something that is in the making?
No, it's ongoing. As I was saying to Omar earlier, we just started our national grassroots program, and our intention is to go after 5,000 kids. Omar mentioned earlier that we are a country of 110,000 people, and outside of that, we're realistically trying to go after 5,000 boys and girls throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. That every Saturday, everywhere in Grenada, these kids should be playing football. We're going after them in the schools. We brought in a new technical director recently, and the intention is to purposely do programs that get every kid in Grenada playing. There shouldn't be any debate going forward as to which sport a kid should play. They should be seeing it so much in their face that they want to do it.
Right.
So we've already started the grassroots program. We've had already a launch in the north. We have a launch in the south. We did one in Carriacou. This week we do a launch on the west coast. Next week one on the east coast, and then we go live all around the country. Our plan is to have over 40 centers operating at the same time, and with those 40 centers, we go in after areas that are populated. So every populated area in Grenada, and when I say populated, populated in Grenada could be,
Yeah.
2,000 people,
Right.
right? Or 1,500 people. So every populated area in Grenada is going to have a grassroots program, and these kids are going to be playing every Saturday. Every coach that participates in the program are going to be paid. So as a result, we expect the coaches to be trained. We expect the coaches to come in and be professionals and come in on time and deliver proper programming. And then we expect, if we do this well, we expect to see players coming out of it. The players that come out of it goes into a parish academy. We have 7 parishes, which includes Carriacou. Once they go into those academies, the parishes are going to be playing against each other. And from there, we're going to pick out our elite players at U10, U10, U12, and U15. Thereafter, we're going to have training camps for, about 50 or 60 U10s, U12s, and U15 that goes into, weekend camps, etc. At least every quarter. And from there, our national teams are going to be selected. But this is going to be what we call our elite pathway, from grassroots all the way into our elite players. So it's not something that we're actually planning. It's something that is already in execution stage. And by next year, when you look at Grenada, or if you visit Grenada, you'll see every kid in Grenada playing football.
Look like I need to upgrade my license and come over there and get one of these coaching positions, man. But just a couple of things, Adrian. Let me just ask this, because I see a couple of persons, a couple of questions. One is Oran. Oran, I think, is from Trinidad, and he's asking, can we keep a men's U20 tournament in December between TNT, Grenada, Jamaica, and I think he says Costa Rica? So just that question is there. And then earlier he asked about coaching education. What is that like in Grenada? What is the curriculum that is used? Is it, for your coaching education program? Because if you have good surfaces, right, good talent and poor coaches, then that's a bad combination right there. So what is the coaching education like? And he's asking about that U20 tournament, and then I'll throw it over to Andre.
So let me interestingly, we've been in talks with Trinidad about the same U20 tournament. They said that they've already spoken to Jamaica. So more than likely there'll be a tournament somewhere between November and December between Grenada, Jamaica, Trinidad, and possibly someone from Central America. I'm not sure it's going to be Costa Rica, but I know they're talking to some countries in Central America. So we already had that discussion, and there's a possibility. We've been speaking with Anton Cornel, the technical director in Trinidad, in terms of putting that together somewhere either in November or December. So that is yet to be confirmed. But we're in conversation right now about the possibility of which will serve as a pre-competition tournament. Now that we're in the same group as Jamaica, I'm not sure how that works, because the conversation started before the teams were placed into groups. So we'll have to work that part out. In terms of coaching education, we've just brought in a new technical director from the UK. His name is Gifton Noel Williams, and Gifton played for Watford some time ago. So he's played at the highest level. But Gifton also has a background from Grenada. His parents are from Grenada. So Gifton is a coach educator that worked with the English FA. He's done a lot of work with the English FA and done a lot of work around England in terms of youth development, in terms of coaching education. So Gifton came in August, and he's already hit the ground running in terms of doing programming, etc., around the country. But in addition to that, we've always, we've done the CONCACAF coaching convention, and technically we're supposed to adhere to all the coaching courses and licenses, etc., in Trinidad. But I've played the game, and I know, for example, CONCACAF has a very young program, and for us in Grenada, we're always looking for support and assistance wherever we can get when it comes to coaching education. So a couple months ago, I had meetings with the Iceland FA. We've been on a lot of talks about getting coaches from Iceland to Grenada and getting coaches from Grenada to Iceland. Up until recently, I know your head coach is from Iceland, so we had that conversation also. Your national coach, your national team coach
Yes.
in Jamaica. When he was here, we had the conversation because he's aware of the conversation we had with the Iceland FA about getting coaches. So he also has stated that he's going to try to see what he can do in terms of helping us to get some coaches down through the Iceland FA. We also been in. We had a meeting with the England FA in August. We have a follow up meeting with England FA in November, the middle of November. Again, support for Grenada football. How do we get coaching education? How do we send a U14 team up to St George's Park for a week or so playing against England on a 15 and some of the other clubs in England? Brentford that we've had conversation with, Brighton that we've had conversation with, Watford that we've been having conversations with. And then Malta FA. The president of Malta and I worked at FIFA together, and I know he's president of Malta. We've been talking about how do we use Malta to even get UEFA licenses through Malta FA. And then how do we get support from Malta, whether it's with equipment, with personnel, etc. So we've been having a lot of conversations around the world, and we're going to take support from wherever it is in terms of helping with our development. One of the youth coaches at Arsenal U13, he's Grenadian, so we brought him down to Grenada to work with our U15s in the summer this year. And we always reaching out to the diaspora for support. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, Reese James and Lauren James, their dad is from Grenada, and he's doing a lot of coaching in the UK. I'm supposed to be meeting with him middle of November, and the hope is that we can get some support from him, whether he comes down or guide us or help provide some guidance to our coaches, etc., in terms of development. We're literally always tapping into the diaspora to see whatever support we can get and wherever we can get it from, because we know we cannot do it ourselves because of limited resources, limited personnel, etc. But we know that we have expertise in the diaspora that can provide that sort of support to us, just because their parents would have been from Grenada and want to give back. So we've been tapping into every corner of the globe trying to get support for the programs here.
So
Awesome. Go ahead, Andre.
this
Whoa.
is this is quite impressive listening to you talk about your plans, and of course every implementation is important. Finances is important. Of course, your background. I believe you're a lawyer. And you played here in the US in college, I think. And you you seem to have you would have had a tremendous amount of experience from being a regional manager in charge of development for FIFA. At what point, for me, this is a unique conversation because you're saying a lot of things that just seem so simple and natural for people to arrive at in terms of trying to develop the football in your country and in the region as a whole. Where did that when did that transition happen, or that you know how did that happen? And I think, do you find it hard getting resources to implement your plan, like from the business community in Grenada and so forth?
So, Andre, I always tell people development of football is based more on common sense than any kind of scientific or any sort of great intervention by some higher being, etc. We know we've done this football over and over. It's basic. The more time the kids spend on the pitch, the better coaching they get, the more equipment they use. That'll make them better players. It's
Right.
basic. The problem we've had in the Caribbean is, and that's throughout the Caribbean, not just in Grenada or in Jamaica or in Trinidad, The problem we've had in the Caribbean for years, we've never invested in youth football. We don't. We go around the Caribbean right now and ask who has a grassroots program. Probably nobody.
Yeah.
Go around the Caribbean now and say, hey, what do you do for youth development programs? And probably nobody has anything. There are a few academies in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Grenada that do their little private stuff. And from time to time, a player or two may come through. But from a government or FA standpoint, are we actually investing in development? We haven't. But then we expect to play in the World Cup in 10 years or in 15 years. So it's a no-brainer. You put in the work at grassroots and new development, the players are going to come through. And if they come through, then they get into systems, whether they go to college or they go play professional football. Mm-hmm. And then you start having some sort of a semblance of some sort of success. But if you do not invest in these players at 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, you're not going to get anything coming out of them when they're 14 and 15 and 16. So what we had in Grenada over the years is we go to all these CFU and CONCACAF competitions, and we go to every one of them, and we play 3 matches, we lose all 3, and we come back home, and we do it again next year. But we do not prepare adequately to go to the next one. And then we show up again, we play, and then we come back. And if you look at almost every Caribbean island, we literally operate the same way. All the money goes into the senior national team. So they go around the globe and they play matches in Gold Cup and whatever it is. And we don't put any money into any development programs. And that is what's lacking between a proper development country. For example, you mentioned Iceland. Mm-hmm. In terms of what is happening in Iceland, on the ground in Iceland, and what is happening in the Caribbean.
Yeah. I read somewhere a while back that a successful national team could fund the entire pyramid of football. And some FIFA document somewhere, and I think that's true for a lot of countries. But you're absolutely correct about the grassroots part of it and getting the balance between the two. As I listen to you talk, I can't help but think that if Jamaica had showed up 6 months later, they might have been in trouble. Sorry, man, it's one. But at the end of the day, you have to invest in young people. You have to put them at the center of everything you do and make decisions based on what is right for the development and the growth of the young people. And it seems as though that's your thought process, investing in the young people. And at the end of the day, as we get to the end of it, we're going to get, whether they play in college, whether they play professionally, or more importantly, to become productive members of society, whether it's in Grenada or somewhere around the world. And that's quite impressive. It's really good to hear that type of conversation coming out of the region. It gives you hope. It gives you hope. I'm impressed with that, management.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because we have discussed many of these things about grassroots development, like even in Jamaica. We have heard so much, but we can't speak directly. We don't see it. And so the truth is, we have a good national team, but we don't see the effect of having a good national team affecting what is happening at the grassroots. And so there's one group that believes, like, listen, we have to get it right at the grassroots because that will strengthen the national team. But that there are others who believe that if the national team is successful, then you'll have more resources. Because one of the biggest complaints in the Caribbean is that we don't have the resources to deal with the necessary things at the grassroots level. And that is why I want to go back to something you said earlier about FIFA funding. What I want to know is, how much does the Caribbean MAs tap into FIFA resources, not for national teams or senior national teams, but for the grassroots program? Because I want to know if there are money left on the table yearly that we are not using in the Caribbean that FIFA has made available. Because I suspect probably Iceland and the United States and other countries are using some of these resources. What is preventing the MAs in the Caribbean from using every cent made available by FIFA to help with grassroots developments. And so you can now seek sponsorship for your senior team from business entity, and grassroots is funded by FIFA resources. Why is that not happening?
The last part of your comment, in an ideal world, that's how you want it to be. But it doesn't happen like that. Now, the funds FIFA provide is being utilized by all the Caribbean islands. But here are the challenges for the Caribbean. We're in a geographically, we're in an area where we struggle in terms of the cost of transportation. So, for example, Grenada pulled out of the women's under 20 last year because it was costing us from Grenada to Nicaragua 170,000 US dollars round trip, and that's just the travel. That's not hotel, that is not meals, that is not stipend, that is not coaching staff payment, etc. Just to travel to Nicaragua, 170,000 US dollars. So it was too much for us, so we had to pull out. We just went to Honduras. That in itself was, on average, just the flights only. I think we paid around somewhere around 75 to 80,000 US dollars, and that is just one national team, senior national team. So between June last year and this year, we would have spent about $1.4 million only on the senior national team. So when you spend that sort of money, there is literally limited or little money to put into program. Every association is battling with the cost of travel in the Caribbean. And what we try to do is to make sure that every one of our national teams participate. And we, like, for example, let me tell you what's going on with national teams in Grenada this year. We have our men's national team that played in Honduras, that played in Suriname, that was at the Gold Cup preliminary round in Florida. Just that alone itself, getting to the Gold Cup, we did a 1 week camp leading into the game. That in itself probably cost us easily about 150,000 US dollars. And thereafter we have our girls our boys U14. No, sorry, girls U14 played in Antigua. On average, we've probably spent maybe about 30,000 US. Our boys U15 went to Curacao. That was about 50,000 US. And then we have the women's playing in the Nations League right now. They just did a trip to Bahamas. That's another 50 something thousand US. So by the time, as I said we had a meeting with FIFA recently, and I said to them, the FIFA forward funds is going into airline companies. It's not going into development. So we need to find a way to get these funds on the ground into development programs. Otherwise, what we're doing is just literally paying for competitions, and we're not getting any development. And it goes back to the question you asked earlier, Andre. Are we getting any support from corporate Grenada or government, or when it comes to our finances? And the answer is no. We get some support from government, assistance from government from time to time. But whereas, for example, Cayman Islands, they get 100,000 US dollars a year from government to support their football program. Grenada, from time to time, if we're in a crunch or we need some support, we're gonna have government, and we may or may not get. Today we have about we have about 5-6 competitions running today, and the only one that's sponsored is our under 15 boys, which is sponsored by Sandals. All the other competitions, we are actually funding them ourselves, and that means payment of referees, prize monies, transportation, preparation of the grounds, etc. And we're funding that out of our pocket. Our national grassroots program, we did a project with FIFA, so we're taking those funds from FIFA. But the funds, people look out and say, you guys getting all this money from FIFA, and we hear that all the time. You go to a sponsor and they said, we're not going to put money into football because FIFA is giving you all these funds. But in reality, when you look at the cost of travel for a national team, the funds literally disappears in like 6 months or so.
And that's right across the Caribbean.
Right across the Caribbean. And the bigger programs are going to struggle more. From time to time, I hear, some of your listeners, etc., back to the GFF in terms of monies, etc. But, sometimes I understand what happens sometimes because, the GFF participate in almost every competition. Women, boys, girls, Olympic, Pan Am Games, whatever it is, you participate as a football team. And the cost of those travels are ridiculous in the Caribbean today. As I said, we just played in Antigua, right across. It's probably like a 50-minute ride from Grenada to Antigua, and I think we spent about 47,000 US dollars to get there, and that's just the airline. Curacao is right on the road. Again, we spent about 50 something thousand dollars to get to Curacao. So every time we travel to a competition, it adds up, and you realize how quickly those FIFA forwards fund disappear.
No, I'm understanding. Is it possible though that if just as an example, if the Grenada MA, say the Trinidad MA, the Jamaican MA, probably St. Lucia, come together and say, listen, let all of us approach Southwest, American Airlines, JetBlue, to be a sponsor to all four teams where we can benefit, because I've seen that where the team I tell people that traveling for the Jamaica team, just luggage alone, just to move the equipment for the team, not the players personal check bag or carry on, just the balls and the bibs and the cones and all of those things, right? It's millions of Jamaican dollars wherever you're going.
So let me just give you an example. We went to Honduras recently, and we tried to get a charter flight, which was costing us from Grenada to Honduras round trip 89,000 US. So to minimize, what we did was to do commercial flight. So the team played against Suriname on a Friday night.
Yes.
The return game in Honduras was on a Tuesday night. So we flew from Grenada. So it was 89,000 round trip on a charter. We were able to get a commercial flight round trip for somewhere around 47,000, I think it was. So we were saving about 30,000 US.
Right.
But that put us in a position where we traveled from Grenada to Trinidad, spend the night in Trinidad. Then the following day we traveled from Trinidad to Panama, and then we went from Panama to Honduras. So we literally got there a day and a half before the game. And by the time the players got there, they were struggling in terms of being tired, whatever it is. And you saw a different game between Suriname and Honduras. So to eliminate that, you want to get directly to these destinations to play your game and get there 2 days, 3 days before. But to do that, it comes at a cost. And as I said, we had to spend either $90,000, 89,000, or we spent, I think it was 47,000, and save 30,000 US, which could have gone into another flight or another program. So sometimes you have to manage these things, and it's very difficult. I think throughout the world, travel in the Caribbean is most expensive.
Yeah.
In Africa, they can drive by bus. It's easy to get around. North America is the same. In the Caribbean, for traveling from Grenada to St. Vincent alone is probably $30,000. And more also, even look at the Eastern Caribbean countries. We also have a disadvantage because every time we go play in the US, we have to get visas. And to get visas means you have to fly to Barbados, spend the night in Barbados, pay for hotel, meals, then the next day you go to the embassy, and then you fly back to Grenada. That alone in itself is about 30,000 US dollars. And then you go to the US for actual competition.
Whoa.
Because the Eastern Caribbean, the US embassy for the Eastern Caribbean is in Barbados. So Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, Antigua, St. Kitts, Anguilla, everybody has to go to Barbados for visa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. I think this is a lot of information that people did not understand. But I need to get back because I'm wondering, and this is where I have one of my biggest problems with Caribbean football is that we don't have this collective approach in achieving the same goal. Like all of us have this end in mind. We have an end in mind, and all of us are going to go there. All of us need the same help in the same department. For example, we all need help with finances towards flight. Why haven't the leaders of some of these MAs come together and say, listen, if Grenada were to go to an airline company, it is highly unlikely that as an individual, they may not travel enough for them to put big sponsorship into it. If Jamaica were to do that, it's probably the same thing. Why not 5 of us go? And if we get $100 we split it $20 each
You see,
with the airline company. It's
the challenge
sponsors.
we have, the challenge we have with that approach is, going after all these major companies, with when you come with a small population, it's very difficult. So Jamaica as a brand would be kind of attractive to Adidas, your sponsor now, or maybe Southwest, or maybe American Airlines. But Grenada with 100,000 is not that attractive. So it's difficult to get sponsors from these major brands and companies. But I think this is an approach I've been sharing around the Caribbean. Why not Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia? 10 of us put $200,000 each, right? And lease a plane for a period of time. So we know the window is coming up. It's the September October window. So for 3 months we're going to be playing 6 matches. Why not we put 200 or 300,000 each, and have that plane come down to Grenada, sit in Grenada, and pick Grenada up, drop them to St. Lucia, pick St. Lucia up, drop them to Curacao, pick up whoever it is and drop them to whoever it is, and everybody spends 300,000, and that's it for your 6 matches. Instead of spending 80,000 a match times 6, you literally spend much more money if you do it that way. So I've kind of shared that idea with a bunch of the presidents around the region, and I think that might be the most effective way to do it, where everybody puts in. If there are 31 members in the Caribbean, everybody gets $200,000 from FIFA for travel. If you put 31 times 200, that's what? I'm not the best mathematician.
620.
Right? Whatever that number is, you put that towards a chartered company and say, hey, here is what we want to do. Here's the schedule for everybody during that window. And that one payment covers your entire half of the year of travel. So instead of spending, as I said, we probably spend about $1 million in travel for the year. You're probably going to spend maybe 400,000 max if you do that approach. So everybody must be on board, and everybody must want to do this together. Grenada cannot do it by themselves. And then you have issues where, for example, somebody may say, well, I could get a commercial flight to Dominican Republic, and I can fly direct on American Airlines from Antigua to Dominican Republic, whereas Grenada has no other alternative to Dominican Republic more than a chartered flight, which is costing them probably $75,000 US.
So that's why the working together in the region is important. You mentioned earlier about and two things. The travel situation, I think I first became aware of how difficult it is. Management, I think you could remember when we had Kamara David on.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he began to explain. So, and I looked into it after that conversation, and saw that it's really difficult and costly to get around the Caribbean. And one of the things that I came across was there's a tremendous cost. Landing fee, I think, is something like that. That makes the fee that high. On top of that, flights are not available as frequently as people would like. You mentioned that you spoke to FIFA about the funding and the fact that it's going to airlines and not reaching the grassroots program on the ground. Are we speaking to the wrong people? Is it possible, or maybe with FIFA's help, maybe the conversation should be with CARICOM, should be with some of the leaders in the region, the prime ministers, to see how travel could improve in the region? Because I can't remember the gentleman's name now. I tried to reach out to him on LinkedIn to try to see if I could bring him on here to discuss. He is from Europe, I believe it's England. He is been involved in a lot of building a lot of travel systems in Europe. And he's somewhere in the Caribbean. They have these conventions that they have every year. And he goes to parts of the Caribbean that I never knew existed, right? And they use planes that land on the water. And there are conversations about why we don't have different ways of getting around the Caribbean, right? And I thought that was interesting, and I was never able to reach him. Do you think that it would be more productive trying to speak to CARICOM or speak to the leaders through some of the forum to try to improve that situation?
Yeah, but let me just say this, Andre, to add to that, Marlon, and then you can respond. The truth is, the driver of the conversation are the drivers. And I think the fact that the presidents of the MAs, I think if the MAs that you mentioned, the St. Lucia, all of those, if all 10 of you sit down, for me, I think that has more power than when Marlon, and it's not saying that Marlon don't have influence, but I think that is where the conversation will become effective when it's a group of voices, or the voice that there is representing a group. I think that will be a bigger factor in bringing forth the change. But maybe like Andre said, and maybe you can respond to that now, in terms of should the conversation be with the leaders of CARICOM, the political leaders, and they be the drivers, or the MA should come together and they be the drivers of this process?
Well, there's an ongoing conversation in CARICOM, and that's been going on since the meets of Leah. So since then, there's been struggles for just a regular person, a regular tourist or whatever from the Caribbean to travel around the region. But more so, the question is, I don't think it's just specific to sports or football. There's an issue with travel in the region, and it needs to be fixed. And I know there's been a lot of debates in CARICOM about, what's the best model, or who does it, or who they let in. But in the interim, I think our best bet might be, I know there were some conversations going on with CONCACAF in terms of maybe like a similar approach. CONCACAF possibly lease 2 planes, and they work the region, etc. So it's CONCACAF window for September, and those 2 planes just literally pick up, drop off, and that should help. But I'm not sure as to why the conversation got stuck somewhere. So as of today, I think the best bet is if 6 or 8 or 10 countries come together, and a couple airline companies has reached out to me. There's one in the US who are asking if we can bring 6 or 7 MAs, then it makes it viable for them rather than doing one country. And even one in the Caribbean also has reached out to me. I think the guy would have just recently leased a plane from Dallas or Texas somewhere. And the idea is to have it sit in the Caribbean and do these charters around the region. So if 6 or 7 or 8 MAs come together and pool their funds together, it gives us a bigger reach. And I think we can do smaller investment into transportation and get the required results we want in terms of the movements around the region. So that might be the best bet. But as I said, everyone has to buy into it, because you don't want Grenada saying, yeah, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, St. Vincent say, hey, there's two of our games next year. We can literally take a Caribbean Airlines flight and go to Trinidad. So we don't need the charter flight. And all of a sudden they pull out, and then, Grenada and St. Lucia and Dominica is stuck with the payment of the charter. So everybody has to be on the same page, and everybody agree that, hey, everyone is putting in $300,000 US for the year, and that's it. And you're locked in, and all your travels are taken care of for the year. I think that might be the best approach.
I like that, because and that should also include fans, because like for Jamaica, a lot of our fans would fly to Florida to watch a game, but to get to Grenada, they have to leave Jamaica, go to Antigua, from Antigua to right. So they would rather go to Florida, which is an hour at like $200. It's like $800. So it's so strange how it is, because I'm thinking like in a window, Grenada had a home game and an away game. I think like to just spread the sport and make it more viable, that a fan could buy a ticket for the home game that gives him an away ticket. Yeah. If travel was easier, yeah, which means that you'd have more people coming to your game, and the possibility of even fans traveling on some of those flights, if possible, to make up for seat space, so you have a full flight if it's just the team that is being brought when it goes to the location, depending on where you're going. And so it is something I think that needs to be discussed, because, like I said, the thing that gets affected is grassroots football, and that is the problem.
Yeah, that is a challenge. That is a challenge because you're asked to participate in all these competitions. And if you pull out of the competition, what the fans see is, hey, Jamaica pulled out of under 15. Why did they pull out of under 15? So you're literally you're you have to make sure that your national team
And
participates.
you get fined. Don't you get fined if you pull out? Is
If you pull out, yep, yep. Most times you're fine, but at the same time, sometimes you say, okay. For example, we pull out of the competition, the under 20 girls in Nicaragua, and as I said, it was going to cost us $170,000 to get there. And there's no way we could have paid 170,000 for airfare only. We haven't even
whoa.
touched we haven't touched hotel, we haven't touched meals. Airfare only 170,000. Um, so we were forced to pull out. So people are saying, "Hey, why you guys pull out?" But that 170,000 can do probably about 10 competitions in Grenada. Can do probably an entire national grassroots program for an entire year, where you're going to touch 5,000 kids instead of that 15 or 20 kids that played one match or two matches in Nicaragua.
Look, you've been so transparent in this conversation that it's unbelievable. It's normally not something that you run into like that in the region where people. I mean, you're making it so easy to understand the problem, right? You eh, Strategic planning, right? Obviously you've been through the process. You have a plan. Um, in the FIFA documentation, which is something that I know you're familiar with, when they talk about building the strategic plan, they talk about involving the stakeholders, which should make it easier for the business community, whoever the stakeholders might be, to support the plan because they were involved in building the plan. Did you have that process and it's still finding trouble with the business community?
No, actually, funny enough, we had a meeting with FIFA yesterday.
Mhm.
Our strategic plan is one we inherited and expires this year.
Okay.
So we met with FIFA in Florida a couple weeks ago and said to them we need support in terms of drafting a new strategic plan.
Right.
So yesterday we had a call with FIFA. They had two experts, consultants, one from the UK. I'm not sure, I can't remember where the second one was from. Together with the governance department. So there was about five or six of them on the call, and they were trying to get some kind of understanding idea as to what would a strategic plan look like for Grenada.
Mhm.
What are the areas we want to focus on, etc. They've since sent us a document that we need to fill out to return to them.
Mhm.
There will be consultation. We're going to go back to all our stakeholders, as you said, our affiliates, which are our clubs, government or businesses. The intention is to get a strategic plan that is all inclusive and that can cater for all the needs of the development of the game, but also all the needs of the development of the association. So we actually just started the process. With the support of FIFA, we expect to complete it over the next couple months or so.
What's interesting, and again, and I think that comes from your understanding of what it means, what good governance mean. I think it is clear. It's no secret that that's the way to go about it, to involve the stakeholders. But you often hear leaders throughout the Caribbean, throughout the region say, I have a plan. So it sounds as though the plan is built independently of all the stakeholders, and then we try to get the stakeholders to buy into it. So a strategic plan with a long-term development plan, um, it it's evident that's the way to go. So it seems as though Grenada is in very good hands.
Yeah,
No, as I said,
we're yes.
to everybody believe I come from FIFA, so I may think that I know everything about football and football in the region and football in general. But as I said, I'm not the expert on football. I'm not the authority on football. I'm not the authority on football in the world. I'm not the authority on football in Grenada. I think every time I have a meeting with my stakeholders, my affiliates, I always say to them, everyone may have an idea, and within all those ideas, maybe the best idea. So I don't sit here and dictate and say that, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is the correct way. Today, I just had some of our teams participating in the U15 league. I met with a few of them today, and they were pointing out all the issues they were having with our under 15 league. And so what we agreed on Friday, we're going to meet with all the coaches in the league, and we're going to plot something together to ensure that the league is organized better, because there were some deficiencies in the league. There were a couple of postponed games, etc. And then and one of the other challenges was the struggle for referees to be on 10 games happening across the country at the same time. So those guys came up with an idea. Why don't we minimize the pitches? So instead of having 10 games on 10 different pitches, we do 4 pitches this weekend.
Yeah.
And with the 4 pitches this weekend, we probably need about 5 or 6 match officials. And they literally, one does the middle, then the next one was the lines. So instead of having 3 times 10, that's 30 officials. We probably have about 12 officials doing it. And we do games, at 12, at 2, at 4, at 6, instead of doing matches all around the country. So that was one of the ideas they came up with, which I thought was a brilliant idea. And we're gonna bring it out to the rest of the clubs on Friday evening. And going forward, we expect the competition to be running better. So we cannot do the football ourselves. The executive committee of the Grenada Football Association cannot sit here and dictate how football is done. We need to hear from the stakeholders, because they are the ones who are affected by the football, and they are the one impacting the football. So we need to ensure that everyone has a voice. Some we may not agree with, some we may think the idea is brilliant, but we must hear the ideas to understand as to how good or bad they are, and take those into consideration. So we've always meeting with the stakeholders. As I said to all of them, I have an open office, and I'm willing to speak with everyone and anyone, whether it's the officials, whether the players. Where right before the Jamaica game, we had a meeting with our senior men's national team, and they raised a bunch of issues. Can they get some additional payments? Can they get some additional bonuses? We had a long 2-hour meeting the night before the Jamaica game, and I said to them, I put everything on the table. We had some discussions, and we're going to do a follow-up meeting. I think sometime next month, to try to understand where we are financially, what we can do. And as I said to them, I was a player once upon a time, so I do understand how they feel. As a matter of fact, I was a negotiator for the national team when I was an actor. So from that angle, I know exactly what they're feeling and what the expectations are. And I said to them, if we have the financial space, we're definitely going to make better on our support for them. But we have to weigh all the options and make sure that it works for everybody. So we're going to do a follow-up meeting again in November. So at the end of the day, these are the guys carrying the flag of the country and carrying the flag of the FA. So we have to ensure that we can take care of all our players, whether they play in the second division or they play on the senior men's national team. We have to ensure that we can take care of every player that is playing football in Grenada. And to that note, recently we opened a physiotherapy office at the FA. So now every player, no matter if you're playing under 13, no matter if you're playing school football, no matter if you play national team, if you have any injury, you come to the office and you'll be seen and you're treated. And we have a scheduling system where every player in Grenada is seen for free by the FA.
Listen, Andre, you're muted. So let me just go ahead. Let me just go ahead. Listen, the people are suggesting that you get some Jamaican citizenship, but not me. I mean, just the comment is that not me. They want you to get Jamaican citizenship because that there's a pending election. Listen, people, don't get me in any trouble, right? But I don't know. So I need to be some competitions director for the under-17 competition down in Grenada next year. I don't know. I love what I'm hearing, but. I'm going to let Andre come in, but I wanted to talk about this because one of the things I discussed with you is Anthony Modeste, who played for Portmore for so many years, like he's a cult hero here in Jamaica, in Portmore. But we haven't seen more Grenadans coming in and playing in Jamaica. And I think at this time, I think our league is above the Trinidad and Tobago league because we have been consistent from the pandemic, right? And Why haven't we seen, and then Andrea, you can just think about this, Andrea can come in with what he was going to say. Why haven't we seen like more Grenadian players like coming into Jamaica to play, to kind of develop their craft and harness their craft? Especially, like you said, if the league in Grenada may not be providing ample competition, especially for those who are breaking into the national team and need that competition until they probably go off into Europe. So that's something I want to ask you. And then someone had a comment about, are you like Jamaica? Are you tapping into your diaspora to get talent? And what is the sentiment with those players from your diaspora coming in, and your domestic based players? So those are the two things I want to ask. But Andre, I know, yeah,
Okay,
No, no, no. Go ahead. You can
let
answer.
me start. So Anthony Modeste, I met Anthony Modeste when he was 14 years old. We were both called to try out for the under 15 national team. So I've known him for over 30 years or so, and we went from under 14 to under 15, under 17, under 20, and eventually both of us played on the senior national team. So I've known him for quite a number of years. And as you said, he came to Jamaica and did very well in Jamaica. I cannot come to Jamaica without someone saying to me if I know Anthony Modeste. Every time, no matter where I'm at a hotel, some random person will say, "Hey, you're into football? Do you know Anthony Modeste?" So he's done well for himself in Jamaica. He's currently the under 20 national team coach. That'll be coming up against Jamaica in a couple months.
yes,
And the question as to why we're not seeing more Grenadians in Jamaica, I think it's unfortunate because I believe it's a good market for us to tap into. When Anthony came a lot of years ago, he was Horace Reed who was in Grenada and saw him play, and eventually took him to Portmore. But I think we have right now we have about 7 or 8 players between 18 and 2021. I think that can come to Jamaica and do very well. I've seen St. Lucia capitalizing on that recently. I think there's at least 4 or 5 St. Lucians playing in Jamaica,
yeah.
and
And
I
two
think
young,
it's an
and two young, and I think two young players from Trinidad just signed with a team here as well.
right. I think there's an opportunity, and I'm not sure how this scouting happens in Jamaica, but I believe there's an opportunity for players from Grenada, the best
I am the I am
young
the
talent.
I am the, I am the chief scout.
Then we may have to talk after this because I believe we have at least 6 to 8 players that can do very well in a Jamaica Premier League. I watch the Premier League in Jamaica, so I know as to what the standards look like. So I'm certain we can have at least 6 to 8 players that can come in there and be standout players in the league. Regarding your question as to tapping into the diaspora, we do have a number of players on our team from the diaspora, in particular from England, that are playing in our national team. But as I said to people, we should not be reliant too much on players from abroad because what it does is it kills the football in Grenada. Because here's what I said to people: we have a Premier League right now with over 200 players playing in the Premier League. But then we pick a national team and everybody's coming from England. I don't think what it does is it kind of deflates any sort of expectation, any sort of hope for young players playing in Grenada because they know they don't have a chance to play the national team. Now I do understand the other side of the coin where people are saying, well, the players in Grenada, the local players, maybe are not good enough. So what I said to them is, then we probably need to make the players good enough in Grenada, so we're not too reliant on the players from abroad. Let me give you an example. Jason Roberts. I don't know if you remember Jason Roberts who played in
Yes,
the.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
he's in the talent identification with
He's
CONCACAF.
the chief football officer at CONCACAF presently.
Yes,
He used to
yes,
be the director of development. Now he's the chief football officer.
yes. He's
Jason
normally
Roberts.
He's normally in Jamaica.
He's in Jamaica right now. Jason Roberts came to Grenada to play for the national team. And Jason Roberts came to Grenada and sat on the bench. Why? Because there was so much competition locally for an English player to play in the national team. Eventually, Jason went from non-league all the way up to Premier League, and Jason became Jason Roberts that everybody knew. But when Jason Roberts just came in as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old into our national team, he was battling with some of the best players in Grenada, and from time to time he was benched. A matter of fact, that same Caribbean Cup I told you about where we lost to Jamaica 2-1, Jamaica just came back from World Cup qualifying. We scored first half. We had Jamaica 1-0, and then they came back and scored two in the second half and beat us 2-1. But Jason made a name for himself eventually in the Premier League, and he became a hero in Grenada football.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, back then, there was Modest, there was Ricky Charles. There were so many good players locally that anyone that was coming in from abroad was going to find it hard to get into the national team. Now, over the last 10 years or so in Grenada, we've been bringing in players from conference, from non-league, and they're walking straight into our national team. And I think it's unacceptable. Now, if Grenada has 10 players in the diaspora playing in the English Premier League, it's a no-brainer. I think it's automatic. They should play.
Yeah.
But if we have players coming from, non-league and conference and 8th and 9th division or whatever it is, they should not be coming to take the place of a good 17, 18-year-old who is playing in our school league, who's playing in our and taking the space. And these guys have no opportunity to get on national team. So I think you have to weigh as to who comes and who don't come. I've had a lot of conversations with our coach, and I said to him, a player is coming from the Championship, Premier League, at that kind of level, it's a no-brainer. We bring him.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
don't want you bringing a player that's playing for a club that I've never even heard of. That's playing in the non-league football. Not because he comes from England, he has an accent, he just brings him to the national team. So since coming into office, I've said that to the coaches that if we're going to bring players from the diaspora, they have to come with some sort of substance. They have to be at some sort of standard. So Michael Antonio, Demani Gray, they walk into our national team, we grab at them. But some player that you've never heard of, playing at a club that you've never heard of, should not be coming to Grenada and take the place of a player who's promising. He just came from the under 20, one of our best under 20 players, and he has to sit on the bench and watch this guy who's playing in 9th division or 10th division.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Yeah, Andre?
Yeah, I think you're making an important point in terms of getting the balance between bringing players from outside and developing players on the island. That balance is important.
Let me just help you, Marlon, because Andre's son, they play overseas, So,
No.
So you have to be careful with the comments.
yeah.
But let me ask you a question: how difficult it is? You see, and this again goes back to the available funds, and dealing with national team players. As you said, these are the people that represent the country and go out there and do the work and fly the flag of the country. How difficult it is to have an agreement for the national team. Like here in the US, the players have an agreement with the federation. When they leave home, they know what they're going to be paid to represent the country, whether it's a competitive friendly or whether it's a competitive game or friendly. They know, and that document we can find that document online, right? It's an agreement. It's out there. It's no secret. How difficult normally in the region that does not exist. I don't know of a federation that actually has that. And what also happens, it creates a difficult situation for players, because at the end of the day, football is a profession. People, that's how they make the living. And if you're going to play football and you expect to be paid, how difficult it is to have an agreement with the national team so that players know what they're going to be compensated when they come in, and that actually happen, as opposed to the night before a game, the players, or 2 days before, the players are always trying to negotiate what they're going to be paid, which is sometimes could be a demotivating situation for them.
You've raised a good point. And what I can tell you is, that document exists in Grenada. So we
It
have an
does.
arrangement where players are paid a match fee, a camp fee, etc. It's not the best.
Right.
So the compensation is not the greatest. Hence the reason why I was in a meeting with the players the day before the Jamaica match.
Right.
Because what they said to me, they needed to have a serious conversation as to, obviously, whatever we pay is literally enough to just for them to pay for incidentals when they're at the airport.
Right.
But can they say they actually come into Grenada and be compensated well? Probably we may never be able to afford it. So we had the conversation, and they understand where we're coming from, because I had to put the figures in terms of the travel, etc. And the GFA, like many other associations in the region, depend heavily, and in some instances, totally on the FIFA fund.
Yeah.
When that is done, there is no money, because nobody else is putting money into GFA. Every time we have a game, we literally operate at a loss. So, for example, to rent the stadium that to play against Jamaica recently, we had to pay to the government through the stadium board $26,000 to rent the stadium.
That's US?
26,000 EC dollars.
EC,
That's
okay.
just to rent the stadium. So that would have been maybe what, 11,000?
13, yeah, 12,000
US dollars.
Yeah.
And every time we have a game, we spend significant amounts to rent the facility. And then we have to pay for transportation, hotels, etc. And then we have a game, for example, the women's game. Last game we had about 2,000 people. So whatever we get from gate receipts will never be enough to cover the actual cost of the match. And on top of that, we still have to pay match fees. So it's a struggle. I would like to be in a position where, as Omar mentioned earlier, a position where we get so much support from government that we can do the matches and the travel and all these things, so that the FIFA funds go into development, go into helping our players, etc. So that, as you said, some of our guys, who's working construction, who has a little job somewhere, they could literally have a small job somewhere, but still depend on the FA's contribution, so that they can be comfortable. But I think we're a long way from it. Until we do not get corporate Grenada to buy into the project GFA, we're not going to be able to provide the sort of compensation. And as I said to the players recently, I know you're worth it. What you're asking for, I know you're worth it. You deserve it. But we're not in a position right now where we can do it. Now, I said to them, let's look at the budget. Let's relook the budget. And if there is a space, then we give it to you, because you've earned it. You literally leave your home and come in and train on mornings, train on evening. And in reality, you get a couple $100 US per night or per game. I don't think it's sufficient, but we do not have the space. So if we could get into a position where government contributes to the FA, like in all parts of the world, government contributes to the FA. In some federations around the world, the Spain, the France, government put millions in Morocco. I was in Morocco a couple months ago. And the government, the king of Morocco, put millions into the association. But in the Caribbean, not too often you see government put in funds. You hear the government budget every year, and they talk about everything, and they give a general small amount for sports. But you never hear in any budget in the Caribbean where government say, hey, we're going to invest 200,000 in football, 200,000 in track and field, 200,000 in cricket. And that's where the investment from government needs to come there. Because, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, government is the one that we're talking about. Kirani James won the Olympics, whatever it is. But where was government at 11 and 12 and 13 and 14? You don't see them, but everybody celebrated. So why not put in the investment now? And then we have Leon Bailey coming out of somewhere in Grenada, homegrown, that makes it to the English Premier League, that can come into his community and help support his community, help his friends, help the facilities in his community, because he's done so well because of the investment of government put into programs that he'd have benefited from and excelled, and then gone into Europe to make a lot of money that he can help his family and his country.
Yeah. Listen, what you're saying, I'm telling you, I think the biggest thing is the transparency. Because I honestly believe across the Caribbean, if you sit down with the players, like you said, show them the budget, show them that they will understand. I do not believe that players are unreasonable. You may find a few, but most players are reasonable. I think what they don't want from their MAs is that they overpromise and underdeliver. Yeah. They'd prefer you underpromise and overdeliver. And I think your approach is the approach that I'd encourage every MA to take. Like, this is what we have. We want to do better, right? But this is what we have.
Yeah,
You understand? Yeah.
the meeting right before the Jamaica game could have gone anywhere. I could have said, you know what, either you guys play or you go home, or I could have listened to them. The first thing I said to them is, I was sitting right in your seat a couple years ago, so I totally understand where you're coming from. I totally understand that you're undervalued, underpaid. And I also said to them, while you should not be dependent on the FA to make salaries, go out and get big professional contracts, etc. But at the same time, you're committing your time and your family and your effort and your energy into this national team program. The least you can get is to get some sort of compensation that makes sense. Rather than we give you some US dollars, by the time you get back to the UK and you change it, you probably get what, 30 pounds or something, which cannot buy a proper drink. So I do understand, and as you said, if you explain to the players where you're coming from, they look at you differently. Because we left that meeting, everyone was on the same page. You saw the performance against Jamaica the following day. Everyone was on the same page, and what we agreed to do is to meet periodically and discuss all these issues and see how we can iron out all these issues. One thing they recognized when we were in the meeting, they said to me, they've seen the upgrade. So from staying at a little non-existent hotel a couple of years ago, now they stay in a Royalton hotel, which is all inclusive on a beach, and they appreciated that. That now they actually felt like professional players staying at a proper hotel in Grenada, which they weren't privy to before.
Yeah.
So that's in my opinion is the value of transparency. Okay, if I'm a footballer and I'm playing outside of the country and I'm making my money outside and I play for Grenada, and I come and we have a leader and a president who have the type of humility that you display there, and the facilities are good, and where we stay is good, and the food is good, I think I can say, you know what, I understand the situation. I don't need a match fee. I'm happy to come and play. I can see that. But if there's not a match fee, or there's a fight for a match fee, you know, whether or not because you're saying they have earned it. That's critical. That's an important distinction that you're making. That's a important observation. And if the facilities are nice and everything, the MA is working towards giving us the best conditions in order to play, because the performance against Jamaica was a good performance, right? It had the intensity, it had the intent. It was a good performance, and it's now making a lot of sense as well, because the conversation could have been different, as you say, and then everything that happens off the field affects what happens on the field. So the humility that you're displaying, I would just caution you that you need to put man's name with immigration, because they might want to kidnap you, because they bring everything from overseas now. So you got to be careful. Look, this is encouraging. And
let me tell you something that we did recently also. That in Grenada, what breaks my heart every time I go to a national team game is a former national team player sitting in front of the stadium begging for a ticket to go to the game. Every time I went to the stadium over the last couple of years, you see these guys who toil or were star players that I looked up to. You see them standing begging for a ticket to go to the game. So what we made mandatory, every national game, I don't care if one we can sell out, I don't care if it was the USA coming or Jamaica coming, every ex-national team player from Grenada goes to the game for free. And every national team player, whether you're under 13, under 15, under 17, you go to the game for free. Because these are the people who are making us a national association. So why are we going to ask this guy who played for national team for 15 years straight to pay to come to the game? So no national team player pays to come to the game, period.
And you know what?
Player who's currently on national team pays to go to the game. Whether you're girls team, senior team, under 15, under 17, everybody comes to the game for free.
How many people hold in the stadium? Because I want people to know that this is not a 30,000 seater stadium.
It's 6,500.
6,500. There you go.
The US game, where the US game in particular, we gave out almost 100 tickets to ex-national team players, so that, and we carved out a section where they would sit and watch the US game because we felt they've earned it over the years and they should not be paying to watch national league football.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I have a very, very good friend, like a brother. His dad is from Grenada, but his dad moved to Trinidad and lived in Trinidad, so he was born in Trinidad. And we joke all the time when we talk about football. He says, "I'm from Grenada. I'm not a Trinidadian. That's your problem." But one of the things, his dad passed recently, and we were at the funeral in Trinidad. And one of the things, as he had his say at his dad's funeral, he was talking about the qualities that he got from his dad. And I believe I'm hearing it here. His dad, he grew up seeing his dad giving to people, right? He would go, he would make groceries, he would bring this for that one, and his dad was literally taking care of people. And that's a quality that he's saying that he got from his dad, because he too does give a lot, and he give freely without, he's the kind of guy with cook for 10 people, he opens up his home to people. And I'm hearing some of that in the conversation. I'm hearing somebody who puts people first, puts the players first, the environment that you're creating. I think in football, we refer to it as player-centric, because I coach myself and I understand what it means. I just recently had a conversation with parents, just trying to educate them, letting them understand how important it is for us as adults to put the players first and work in the players' best interest, how it accelerates development. So it would be interesting to see 5-6 years from now where Grenada football is. And like Iceland, as the smallest country to have gone to the World Cup after Trinidad and Tobago, I think with the way things are evolving, and I think just that idea that this is being done for our people, for our young people, I think you probably might take Iceland's place as the smallest country. It's because this is the behavior that I personally believe this. I would like to see this behavior
right across the Caribbean.
Quite frankly, I don't think it exists. I would like to see that there, because I think at the end of the day, if we put young people first, we get more out of them, because we could expect more out of them.
Yeah. Marlon, listen, it has been, I feel like I could talk to you all day, right? I know you had a meeting, and so I don't want to keep you long, but we love to have a next conversation with you. Listen, you need to I know you went to South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Andre is in North Carolina. You should have him come down there. Yeah, he has an academy over there.
I haven't been to that part of the world in a long time. But
yeah, you should have him come down there and do one of those kids workshop. He has an academy out there in North Carolina.
Nice.
Definitely. Yeah, you should. But listen, like I am at a loss for words, because
this has been good.
Like we have spoken to many people in the football and the platform across the Caribbean, and I will tell you this, and they have provided good content, but to just hear what is happening with the football in terms of your vision and the transparency and the openness, we generally don't get this from many of the stakeholders. There's always this fear of saying what things really are, lest I get myself in problems, right? And I like the fact that you're open and honest, and it speaks to, like I said, what I personally experienced in Grenada. It's like I said, it's a small island with a big heart, big mind and big vision. And you think, what if they had more resources? But sometimes it's not more resources. It's the willpower, and that's what you have.
Good people,
and that will drive. It may not it may not mean that you qualify for every World Cup. What it means, though, is that we will see talent emerging from Grenada. And we'll remember this interview about the president, Marlon Glean, who changed the vision. You know, they have this book called Atomic Habits, and they speak about identity, process, and output, and how some people focus on the goal. I like the fact that you're changing the identity of Grenadian football and applying processes, and that will ultimately give you the goal that you have in mind. And you're not just focused on, okay, let's qualify for the World Cup. Because when I did the thumbnail, I had that in it, right? I had in it Grenada qualifying for 2026 World Cup. And he asked to rephrase that, right? Because that's the goal. But if you change the identity and you put in the process, then listen, you will get the right outcome. And even if it's not the World Cup, then you'll become, like I said, a powerhouse in Caribbean football and in CONCACAF. And so I must commend you on all of this, because again, people don't know that you didn't have to lose it, because a host of people, you are an attorney, and you could also be doing other things. But a part of this is also service to your country. Which sometimes, as we know, football in the Caribbean with very minimal financial reward for it. And so I have to commend you on that. And again, on behalf of the people of Jamaica, to say a big thank you to you and everyone in Grenada for how you dealt with the national team, even at the end of the game. Our players were so fascinated because the guy who actually scored against Jamaica worked at the hotel that they were staying.
Yeah.
it just it's just awesome. It's just so many awesome stories, right? That the person who actually scored in that game works at the hotel that the players were staying. You know, it just goes to show, man, that you have a big heart. So thank you so much. And listen, I mean, anytime you want to come on, Andrea and I were always here. We have a next person called Cranky, who is normally on with us as well. I know Mr. Rudolph Speed said that he'd love to get in touch with you. In fact, I told him that I made some contact for you to bring down some players, and he the show before he was quarreling, say I'm not his friend because it is his club. All the players need to come to. Yeah, so he's ready. He said that he's ready.
He has a very big transfer budget.
Already. Well, we need to speak.
I don't know.
We need to speak.
I don't know if I concur with that, but normally we don't take. We're ending, but we have this. He's in England, which means it is 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night now, and I figure that he wants to say something. He's one of the elders on the program. His name is Soldier. So Soldier, you know we're closing. You have you have to make your point quickly, and then we will close the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, Marlon and Jay Marlon, I love what you said, and I appreciate when I hear you said all the former players, your cities that they get a ticket. I was so proud because sometimes you go to football and you see some of the players, former players, standing up begging ticket for real, and nobody pay them mind. I agree with that. I see some of the men stand up, even going up the lineup of the JFF office to beg a ticket to come to the game. So these things is very good. And I know management, I know he will take something from this because he have a big heart and only want the people them to support him and continue, because I know he will come and do some great thing like what you're doing, Marlon. And I'm telling you, I appreciate all what you said. And with the players them and so forth, I agree with some of this stuff, and you make some very great points. And I hope other person in Jamaica listening from even the federation, listening what they say. But some of the things, what I'm saying to you, but I don't know, your management come up with something good, but I say to management, I don't know where is for the federation them to come together. It's like a politics where one party want to win. So I don't think that would work. because you won't get that. Maybe management and you, maybe 100 might want, but the rest of the country, them don't want that. Because if you go buy a plane, maybe people start killing one another for the plane because you hear them put money on that. So may I tell you the truth. Them think they who work with the federation. It's just like how you have PMP. So may I tell you, say those things not go work. So management, I know it's good idea and good thinking and talking. That not go work.
All right. Listen.
Yeah.
So whenever Marlon comes to Manchester, England, listen, you're gonna have to personally take care of him, you know.
Yeah, man. When come, me know. But management, no one talk about something off the ear.
Then, Soldier, if you want to talk to me off the ear, not tell me on the ear.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, man.
All right. Later.
Marlon, take care of yourself and do it and continue the good work, my brother.
All right.
Yeah, well, all right. All right. Okay. All right, Marlon. So I'll give you the final word, and then we will close out the show.
Yeah, thank you, Omar. Man, just want to say thank you for giving me this platform to discuss football, not just Grenada football, but Caribbean football. Um, we're all related. We're all one people as a Caribbean CARICOM. I think we all should be looking out for each other. So everything we do in Grenada, we try to provide support to everybody else. I have a very good relationship with the JFF, and I try to provide as much support as I can whenever I can. But sometimes, you're looking on from the outside is not all what you see it to be, that it is. There are struggles sometimes, but I think as leaders, we need to find innovative ways to make sure that we can make this football work. Because if it works well, then we know that we'll be taking care of a generation of young people. So everything we do here in Grenada is to ensure that we can, take care of our young ones so that they can later on grow up and grow on to bigger and better things. And at the end of the day, our communities and our country is going to benefit from it. So, whether it's Kirani James or whether it's just the guy down the street who just ended up using football to get him a good job at a hotel or with government or somewhere. What we would have done is to, through football, instill all the qualities of making that great father or husband or just someone in the community that goes on to coach or goes on to inspire the people close to him. So we have to continue to make sure that we can take care of our people, whether we're in Jamaica or in St. Vincent or in Trinidad or Grenada. And the leaders need to come together and work as one group, as one unit. Because when I stand up and fight for Grenada, I'm not just fighting for Grenada, I'm fighting for the Caribbean. So if we have 31 voices fighting for the Caribbean at the same time, somebody has to listen. I think for too long we've been trying to do our things by ourselves. So Jamaica is trying to do football by itself, and Grenada is trying to do football by itself. And we realize that not any one of us have enough expertise to do it by ourselves. So it's important that the Caribbean MAs, it's important that we come together and fight the same fight because we're all in it for the same reasons, to help our communities, to help our countries within the Caribbean. So again, thank you for giving me the platform, and I look forward to chatting with you guys again soon. Thank you.
All right, wonderful, and all the best. I mean, your team got you went down to B to
Yeah.
B,
Yeah.
so you got relegated to
Yeah.
Group B now, right, in Nations League. So all the best in the under-20 competition. I think that's going to be in St. Kitts,
Thank you.
right, which is not a far travel for you though.
In distance, but in terms of getting there, obviously that cost again will come into play. But we should be
Okay.
able to get there. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Andre, anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say here is I agree with the sentiment that we have to work in regards to what is best for our young people. For me personally, I work with young people every day, and it's quite simple for me. It's to develop young people that has the integrity and the discipline, young people that's brave, that could become productive members of society, either in their country, in their community, or the world at large. And at the end of the day, if you get a few footballers out of it, that's great. If you get a few professional footballers or people get to play in college, that's great. So I think I'm impressed with what I heard today. I'm happy. It's the first conversation that we really had that had this type of transparency in it. That I know that you're heading in the right direction, and that's good to see. So hopefully, I'm looking forward to see what comes of it. Once you get things right administratively off the field, it works out. So good luck in the program, and hopefully we'll be in touch sometime soon.
Wonderful. All right, so there you go, people. Again, a big thank you to Marlon Glean, former Grenada national player. Now he is the president of the GFA, Grenada Football Association. A big thank you also to Andre. As usual, we don't interrupt our discussion to talk about liking and subscribing and sharing. But now that the program is over, please go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, and share the content. Again, big thank you to Marlon, and not just to him, but the entire GFA that were so accommodating to the Reggae Boys on their recent visit and the people of Grenada. I know that many of his friends are listening. One Freddie Butler probably watching as well. Probably going to call you afterward, But big up, he has. I mean, if you looked at his campaign, he had like Christopher Martin as part of his campaign, and Bibi Gardner. So he has some contacts around the Caribbean as well. But thank you so much. Like I said, I really enjoyed the conversation, because I always tell people that whatever we cover will be exposed, and whatever we when we expose things, then those over us will cover it. Right? There is a protection, there's an accountability, and the fact that you have been transparent, I think it helps with the progress of football. I hope this kind of sets an example to other leaders that what the people want to know is the truth. And I know the truth hurts, but one thing I know, that lies hurt way more than the truth. So we should make it our habit of being open and transparent, honest and truthful in all our dealings, and let people make their own decisions. But I am Man's man, that's Mr. Marlon Glean. Andre, this has been I Am Sure Sports. And as usual, when we get to the end of our program, we say we are over and we are OUT out of here.
Watch about dog, SK New heard this. The body out there, Sniper King I represent for I Am Sure Sports. You get to me, I say, when you want the latest news and sports and updates and all of that, check out I Am Sure Sports. You know the thing goes in. Remember, cover the whole island. Remember Kingston, Westmoreland, Galchester, Ocherville, Galtigo Bay. Everywhere. I Am Sure Sports. Check it out for the latest news and latest updates. Sniper King I represent. Where them feel like? Yeah, someone on for the food from young, from where they need height. I Am Sure Sports. Yeah, dog.